Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to New Zealand once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. Now, these guys are still a relatively new addition to the New Zealand beer scene compared to some others I've encountered, but they've built up a very good reputation for themselves over the last few years, and they are pretty well established these days. If people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're probably best known for their different kinds of IPAs, but I have seen quite a few different styles from this brewery, so I guess I need to explore those a little bit more, and maybe it's fairer to say that this brewery is pretty solid all round. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I have had from this brewery before. It's one that I know they can do very, very well, and I've heard very good things about this beer. And as of the time of filming, which is September 2025, this is one of their latest releases here in Hong Kong. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, like I said, for this review then, we are going to head down to New Zealand. We're going to stick to the North Island, but go to the southern part of it, to Wellington, the capital city, and to be specific, we are going to go to the eastern part of the city, to the Miramar area. And that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from Double Vision Brewing. So this particular beer is called Mad Eye. It comes in at 10.1% ABV, and this is a New England Hazy Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, as I say, I've heard very good things about this one. But this is yet another beer that I picked up at the wonderful Craftissimo in Sheung Wan over on Hong Kong Island. They do seem to get quite a regular supply of good beers from New Zealand, and these guys are one of the breweries that make fairly regular appearances. But yeah, this is one that was recommended to me by Akil, who really knows his stuff. So I thought we would do another one of these. I think it's been about a year or so actually since I last had a beer from this brewery. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what it's going to have in store for us. I love my Kiwi beers, and always cool to return to a brewery who I know are pretty damn solid. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Double Vision Brewing before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the New Zealand playlist along with a number of other things. That's been added to whenever I get the opportunity, but not as regularly as I would like, I have to admit, because I love my Kiwi beers. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then. So, Double Vision Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Wellington, which is in the kind of southeastern part-ish, I guess we could say, of the North Island in New Zealand. To be specific, they're in the Miramar area to the east of the city, and the company was founded back in 2016 by Mario Lance, Harry Henriksen, Warren Drahota, and Evan Flonte. So Warren has a background in graphic design, while both Harry and Evan worked extensively with product design, and apparently the four friends met while they were working for a company called Phil and Ted's, which designed baby gear, and all of the guys are from New Zealand except Warren, who is from Fort Collins in Colorado over in the US, which, as we know, is quite a good beer state. But Mario is the beer geek of the company, and he homebrewed in his garage, and basically he and the guys would hang out, brew the beer and barbecue, and it became a little bit of a hobby for them. But the company initially started out as a part-time venture, and they were gypsy contract brewing, whatever you want to call it, at different places including Te Aro and North End, before they decided to make the brewery their full-time focus in about mid-2019. And the brewery itself, as I mentioned earlier, can be found in the Miramar area, which is out to the east of the city, and they've gradually grown their space out there over the years. Now, one of the interesting things about this brewery is when they were ready to expand, they found themselves kind of landlocked by other tenants, but they found a suitable property kind of across the way inside their industrial estate, and they decided to rent that. So to make this work, they actually had to construct an underground beer pipe, and they say that this cost them a lot more than they expected because they had to do food safe welding for this thing to be suitable to take beer, obviously. And it's kind of funny if you look at the Google Maps outside, if you use Google Earth basically and look at where this brewery is, you can see the line in the road where they've dug the trench and put the pipe through. So yeah, a little bit of a funny thing about this brewery actually. But they do have an on-site tap room at the brewery. They've got 17 taps there apparently, and this is open Wednesday to Sunday every week. And as of September 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 215 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd. But they've become very well respected over the last few years, so they are one of the Kiwi breweries you need to check out. But there are still a lot of breweries that I need to check out from New Zealand as well. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Double Vision Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer. The Rate Beer doesn't exist anymore. You can check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So as I mentioned earlier, this one comes in at 10.1% ABV. It's a New England hazy, imperial triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. This one is hopped with Mosaic from the US, and then Motueka, Riwaka and Superdelic from New Zealand. I should point out that those hops are the ones that are used later on. What I understand, it did kind of suggest that there might be a few more in there in the early part of the wort boil and things, but yeah, when it comes to these hops, as I say, Mosaic, American, 14% alpha acid, known for its little bit of earthiness and that big kind of tangerine character. Motueka, 8% alpha acid, it's going to give you that lovely kind of juicy limey note. Riwaka is quite a low alpha acid one, about 4 to 6% alpha acid, and it's known for its kind of passion fruity type qualities. I think a wee bit of grapefruit as well. And then Superdelic is a new hop on the block from New Zealand, about 9 to 12% alpha acid, and it's known for its kind of red fruity sort of candied type flavours. So yeah, this should be quite an interesting combination. But I'll let you have a wee quick look at the artwork on this one before we open up. There you can see it's kind of similar to what we've seen from Double Vision Brewing in the past. Incidentally, the brewery symbol is round here on the other side of the can. It's a black top on this one. It's a 440 milliliter can there as well. But yeah, it looks pretty nice, this one. And of course, I like this because it's got a pirate on it. I love Ailstorm, one of my favourite metal bands. Of course, I like a lot of metal bands, but yeah, Ailstorm are good fun, and that's kind of what this one reminded me of. So yeah, the Mad Eye Hazy Triple IPA, 10.1% ABV. Let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. So let's do it. I have to say, for a 10%er, it doesn't look madly hazy. We'll need to see when we pour the rest of it, but I think for the moment, to the bottom of the Yardley Y, that should be enough to have a look at the appearance of this beer and the head and things. But yeah, anyway, we can see that this beer, before the head disappears, we've poured maybe about 60% of it or so, something like that, a little bit over half. We can see that this beer has poured with about a quarter finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of perfect white head there. You can see a little bit of medium-sized bubble on the surface of liquid. It gets a little bit soapier the further up that you go, but yeah, that's going to fade away to be a kind of thinner, just foamy layer on the top there. But yeah, colour-wise, this one's like a very kind of bright yellow sort of mango juice colour. I always like comparing the New England IPA appearances to different fruit juices, because that really is just what they remind me of. But yeah, remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect the colour as well, but you don't often have to care about that when it comes to the IPA style umbrella, if you like. But yeah, one of the other things I would say about this is that for it being a 10.1% beer, it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of New Englands I've come across at this at this ABV in honesty. So remember, the level of haze in these beers depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. That can vary from brewery to brewery, beer to beer, and so on. So yeah, it's an interesting looking beer, this one. Not much in the way of visible carbonation, but yeah, it does look pretty damn nice. And to be honest, nothing out of the ordinary in terms of appearance when it comes to what we would expect from this style of beer. So yeah, let's leave it at that for appearance, and we'll go on to the aroma section of the video then. These are always really interesting. I'm still trying to get a bit more familiar with Superdelic as well. The head's kind of restored quite nicely there as well if we do that. So yeah, let's have a wee look at this. Okay, interesting. Right. So this comes across as being a little bit more of a kind of yeasty leaning New England IPA actually, which I wasn't quite expecting. But yeah, so when it comes to New England IPAs, for me, when it comes to considering the malty and yeasty side of things, I think there's 6 elements to look at. You've got the yeasty kind of farmhousey type character and the rye leaning grainy side of things. Those 2 elements are a bit more common in New England brewed New England IPAs, but as the style has evolved and moved elsewhere, it's a little bit more about wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things. Now this beer, the aroma that's coming out of this one actually reminds me of some of the beers that really got me into this style, such as the Stigbergets Amazing Haze or GBG Beer Wheat Beer, Narangi from OO Brewing, New Sweden IP from Opigårds Brewery. Those beers were the ones that started the Swedish New England haze craze, if you like. So this beer's kind of reminded me of that, and the reason I say that is because of the Trillium beer I reviewed a couple of videos ago, and it kind of smells a bit more old school. This beer has a little bit more of that kind of yeasty character to it, but it smells like it's more kind of barley malt, wheaty and oaty sort of lean. I don't think this one's too heavy in terms of the oats. I think it's more yeasty and barley malt with a little bit of wheat in the background. I don't think there's too much oat in this one, but you can detect it, of course. But yeah, it gives you everything you want. You've got a lovely kind of nice bright green component out of this one, juicy fruitiness, and as I say, the malt base for me comes across as being a little bit more sort of old school, if you like. So be an interesting one to try this, but let's break the aroma down properly and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So yeah, the backbone of the beer, you've got a lovely little bit of like fresh white bready bread crust in this one, as you often get. I'm getting little hints of wood, little hints of cracker. Again, you very often get this. If you take the aroma in a bit more deeply, there's a wholemeal brown bready type of character to this one, but again, that takes a bit of a backseat to all the other bready notes in this. There's some fluffy fresh white bread in there, which I think is great. A lovely big fluffy fresh white bread, and then on top of that, yeah, you can definitely smell a bit of wheaty character out of this one. So yeah, you've got the wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose. Wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose. But it's smoother kind of further forward, which is interesting. And then of course you get the oaty side of the beer. So yeah, the oats in this one, the more that I smell of it, the more noticeable the oats become. But I still think this one leans a bit more toward the wheaty side of things. So yeah, the oaty side of this beer is for me quite, it has a little bit of dryness to it. So when it comes to oats in New England IPAs, they can often be a rough indicator of how fresh your New England IPA actually is. Essentially, the creamier the oats smell and taste, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is. This one, unless it's the type of oats, it can vary a little bit. You know, European oats are a bit more creamy, North American oats are a little bit more kind of porridgey, if you like, and New Zealand and Australian oats I've always found are kind of somewhere in the middle, different soil profiles and water profiles and things like that. It says this one is best before the 10th or the 1st of July 2026, so I'm guessing this has been canned either in very late June or early July of this year. So we're drinking this one at maybe about 2 months old, roughly. We're drinking it about that, so it should still be in good condition, but I am noticing a little bit the dryness of the oats starting to come out of this one. That we can certainly see that, but it could be down to the type of oats, we'll say that. So yeah, there is a wee bit of creaminess to the oats, but there's a wee bit of that kind of porridgey character as well, and I'm definitely getting a little bit of sweetness out of this one, you know, like Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotch, a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit as well. We are getting kind of some of that out of this one, which is quite interesting. So yeah, interesting stuff, this beer. It's making me think a little bit, which, you know, you want after like, what, 4,000 odd beers. But yeah, malty backbone of this one is pretty nice. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the yeastiness before we kind of round that off. So the yeastiness at the back of the nose for me, it comes across as being a little bit more kind of, it's got a little touch of brown bready character to it. So wholemeal brown bready notes in this one. Yeah, brown bready notes in this one, some fluffier white, fresh white bread in there, and a little bit of, yeah, a little bit of white bready bread crust as well. A wee bit of cracker too, so yeah, that yeasty kind of farmhousey character that comes out of this one, I think, is really nice as well. So that gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, the malty yeasty side of this beer is quite nice, and I'm finding I'm getting more and more oats out of it and slightly more sweetness the more that I smell of it too. But yeah, let's look at the hoppy side of things with this one then. So yeah, the when it comes to hopping your IPAs, there are 3 types of hoppings that you can do. You can do early edition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you the majority of your bitterness and a deeper, danker sort of green component. You've got your late edition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour of the wort boil. That gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, and then yeah, gives you a very bright green component, we can see. And then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that's all about flavour and aroma, and again a very bright green component. West Coast IPAs tend to use all 3 types of hoppings, which is why they're deeper, danker and more oily. New England IPAs tend to rely on late edition and dry hopping, which is why they're a little bit softer and more juicy. You can kind of smell that in this one. The green component's quite soft and quite juicy in its fruity character, but yeah, you've got that nice kind of bright green component in there. So let's go on to that and have a wee look at the hoppy side of this beer then. So definitely the little bit of earthiness in there. That's your mosaic that's going to give you that. There's a wee touch of a herbally note to it as well. I'm not quite sure where that would come from. But yeah, some nice floral aromaticity to it. Lovely kind of zesty, grassy character to the beer as well. Yeah, the green component is pretty much what you would expect. But let's have a wee look at the fruity side of things for this one then. So yeah, for me, I'm getting a little bit of peach out of it, which I'm guessing that might be the Ruaka that's doing that. Ruaka can give you a little bit of a sharper note to it, so I think the Ruaka is doing that. But there's quite a bit of like, I do get quite a little bit of passion fruit out of this one. Like, it's quite a smooth tropical note, and it's not really that juicy and ripe, if you like. So yeah, the more that you smell of it, it's more passion fruit, but there's a wee bit of like apricot and stuff underneath that as well. That's your Ruaka that's going to give you that kind of softer tropical fruity note. And as we sugar it up, yeah, you get the kind of candied sort of sugars coming out of this one. Whenever you read about Superdelic, they talk about lolly. So lollies in New Zealand and Australia are like, yeah, candy sweets essentially. So yeah, when you sugar the beer up, you get that sort of candy sugary kind of thing, which will be the Superdelic. But it gives you an almost like candied strawberry once you let the beer kind of settle back down. But underneath all of that, there's a good little bit of that oily tangerine orange, which you'd expect from the Mosaic. And I can get that at the very front of the nose. You can get that kind of limey character from the Motueka as well, actually. So yeah, the way that all of that kind of pieces together is really, really nice in this one. It's a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I have to say, I do like how that goes together. It's pretty awesome. So yeah. Aroma-wise, this is quite an interesting beer, and as I say, I love my Kiwi hops, so yeah, I'm quite curious to learn a little bit more about Superdelic in that sense. Is this going to get soupier and gloopier when we pour it out? Yeah, it has gotten a little bit more opaque, I would say. So yeah, maybe there was a little bit of sediment in this one. If it's about 2 months old, you'd start to see that, I have to say. So maybe I told you a few lies about the appearance of this beer earlier on in the video. But as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we try this one now and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Mad Eye, a 10.1% New England Hazy, Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Double Vision Brewing in Miramar, Wellington, North Island, New Zealand. I need to try and get it in my head the Maori names of the two islands, because that's how they refer to them now. But anyway, let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers, cheer. Ooh, that's nice. That is nice. I'm going to say straight away, very smooth and sort of silky New England IPA. This one, it's not the thickest, but yeah, it's got a lovely kind of silky mouthfeel to it, I have to say that. So thumbs up to Mad Eye, sorry, not Mad Eye, thumbs up to Double Vision for this one. I would say as well, it's dangerously drinkable for a 10.1% ABV. If you gave me this blind, I would never pick out that it's that level of ABV. This one actually reminds me of Hazy Days from Hong Kong Beer Company, just a nice, easy drinking New England IPA. But yeah, I really don't think I would pick out that this was 10.1%. That is dangerous with this beer. Yeah, interesting stuff. It certainly has got me thinking. But yeah, lovely beer, this one. It kind of gives you everything you want from the style, and as I say, it is a bit more, it kind of reminds me of the more old school New England IPAs, if we can call them that. This one reminds me of the, like, how the New England IPA started, in a sense, the more kind of bready, wheaty and oaty ones before they got like really creamy and sweeter and things like that. So yeah, a little bit of a nostalgic, a little bit of nostalgia. I was looking for the noun. A little bit of nostalgia with this beer, I think. So yeah, it's good stuff. But let's do as we always do. We'll break the beer down and we'll describe it for you that little bit more in depth then. So middle third of the palate. Let's go there first. So yeah, quite juicy on the front end as well. But yeah, middle third of your palate, the backbone of the beer, lovely kind of fresh white ready bread crust in there. As you move further forward, you've got a little bit of a more, you've got a little touch of a kind of woody character coming out of this one. So fresh white ready bread crust in there, a little bit of woody character, some cracker above that. There is a very slight layer of a more kind of wholemeal, brown bready note coming out of this beer, which I do quite like as well. And then yeah, on top of that, you've got a fluffy, fresh, white bready character out of this one from the barley malt. So yeah, it's quite fluffy and airy, but it's quite smooth, and it has a little touch of dryness to it. I think they're probably using kiwi malt in this one, because it feels a bit different. It's not quite as dry as the European German malts, and it's not quite as like sweet as the North American one. So I'm pretty sure they're probably using kiwi malt for the most part in this one, because it's just a wee bit different. But yeah, on top of the kind of barley malt white bready character, you've got a more dense wheaty note out of this one. As I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. But yeah, there's a more dense wheaty character and a smoother wheaty character further forward on this one. And then yeah, further back, toward the back of that middle third of your palate, there's a nice little bit of kind of wheaty bite to the beer as well. So yeah, the way that goes together is really very nice, actually. So yeah, yeah, the way that goes together is really quite nice in this one. So yeah, smoother wheaty character further forward. There's a nice little bit of wheaty bitiness in there, and then yeah, you've got a kind of middle. You've got a circle in the middle third of your palate there, where the kind of the oaty notes are kind of coming out. So maybe if you go down the middle line of your tongue, you can feel the kind of creaminess of the oats in there. So yeah, above the wheaty bready there, yeah, you've got the oaty layer, and then it's very creamy down that kind of middle line of your tongue, if you like. And as you move out toward the edges, it just gets that little bit drier, I would say. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really quite nice. There is a little touch of sweetness to this beer. So in the dead centre of the in the dead centre of the palette, you've got some you've got a little bit of that Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch in there, and it's just surrounded by a wee bit of it's surrounded by a little bit of a kind of biscuity type character as well. So there's a wee bit of that, but as I say, the sweetness takes a bit of a backseat to the overall bready nature of this beer. But yeah, that covers the middle third of your palate. Let's go to the back third of your palate. As I've often said, the flavours in there are quite similar, just at different kind of intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you got that little bit of bready build up in there, the brown bread in the base, the fluffier white bread in the middle, then the more wheaty, bitey character on top, and then yeah, the base of that, back third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of fresh white bready bread crust in there, the Jacob's cream cracker on top of that, and then you've got a wholemeal brown bready sort of thing coming out of it. You've got a fluffier white bready character on top of it as well, but both of those layers are a little bit lighter, taller and more airy than in the middle third of your palate, and then on top of that you get the wheaty character, and the wheat has a little touch of bite to it on that back third of your palate, and then of course the yeasty character sits above that. So let's have a wee look at the yeastiness then. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me, at its core, it's got like a more dense it's got a more dense brown bready sort of character to it, and around the edge it's got a bit of a fluffier white bready note as well. So a more dense brown bready kind of character, a sort of fluffy white bready note to it, and then a little bit of kind of bread crust around the very edge there. Maybe a little bit of a kind of crackery, rusticy bready character to it as well, which I do really quite like. So yeah, the yeastiness there gives you a wee bit of brown bready and crackery bready character into the aftertaste. But yeah, definitely back third of your palate you can feel the flavour is taller, and as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it's just that little bit more kind of compressed together, and I really like the way that goes together in this one. So big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I think we've said everything we need about the malty and yeasty component in this beer, so let's go forward and have a look at the hoppy side of things. As I say, the malty yeasty side of this beer is a bit more old school, so a little bit of nostalgia in this beer for me. So hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, you have got that nice little bit of earthiness in there. It's the mosaic that's going to give you that. As you move further forward, there's a wee bit of a herbal character as well, which is quite noticeable. And then as you push further forward along the kind of sides of your palate there, you can feel it gradually becomes more and more floral, and it's not sort of spicy, but there is a little bit of kind of floral aromaticity. Then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a wee bit lighter and grassy. So let's examine that kind of front third of your palate now and the fruity side of things. So border region between front third, middle third of your palate, again, little bit of bready build up in there, the brown bread, the white bread, and the kind of wheaty character. The base of that front third of your palate is the kind of brown bready, the kind of sort of fresh white bready bread crust, the cracker, the brown bread, the white bread, and some of the wheaty notes, and I think a little bit of the oaty character creeps forward there too. But then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at the fruity side of things in this one then. So the fruity side of this beer for me is the fruity side of this beer for me, I would say it's quite interestingly balanced. It's actually quite light in a sense. I think you get most of the fruit when you actually take the beer in. It's a kind of impact flavour, if you like. So the back half of that front third of your palate, I'd say it's also a little bit calmer in a sense than what you pick up in the aroma. So the back half of that front third of your palate is all about the riwaka for me. So it's softer passion fruit and kind of a bit of apricot underneath, maybe a little touch of pineapple in there as well, but the sort of peachy, mangoey notes, the sharper tropical notes that I was getting in the aroma don't really appear in the flavour. But when you move into the kind of front half of that front third of your tongue, you can feel the base, I think, of the front half is the mosaic, so it gives you that tangerine orangey note, and then you get the big juiciness of the motueka just behind that kind of front tip of the tongue, that big limey character there. It mixes in with all the grassy esters. The superdelic, I think, is kind of what is smoothing the beer out in a sense in that way. It's smoothing out the fruity character, because into the aftertaste, yeah, you get a little bit of this candy sugar, like strawberry sherbet or something like that. You can feel a little bit of that just on the tip of your tongue on top of the limey character. Yeah, like when you take the beer in, and if you focus on the front of your palate, you'll feel this kind of candied strawberry, sort of strawberry sherbety kind of flavour coming out of the beer. And it comes in and it lingers there. You've seen how long it was since I took a sip. It's kind of lingering there. Then it sort of disappears a little bit, and the limey notes of the Motueka start to take over, and you just get a little bit of this, as I say, this is why I say sherbet, you get a little bit of this almost like sherbety nature to it. But again, the passion fruit from the Riwaka and the tangerine notes from the Mosaic start to push their way out a little bit later on. So that's an interesting observation about Superdelic. It kind of shows some more impact flavoury type characteristics, so I'll need to keep that in mind. But yeah, interesting fruity profile to this one. I've learned a little bit about Superdelic, which is always a good thing. But yeah, I think we've said everything we need to about the flavour of this beer. So let's round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, it actually is, it's very, very light for what it is, I would say. I'd actually put this beer right in the middle of the spectrum. It's mid-body, smooth carbonation, quite a silky mouthfeel. The IBUs in this one, I think this is a fairly standard 30 IBU beer. Potentially could be 40. You can feel the bitterness building up a little bit into the aftertaste with this one. So 30 to 40 IBUs. The malt base is a bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, and kind of silky and slightly creamy on top. And then yeah, you've got a lovely juicy, fruity character coming out of the beer as well. As I say, a mix of tropical notes, but kind of candied at the start. The tropical notes and the citrusy notes come out a little bit later on. But all in all, another really, really solid New England IPA from these guys. And yeah, I think this is similar to what we had from them before. These guys are doing a slightly more old school take, I think, on the New England IPA. These beers are like the ones that I was drinking in Sweden back in 2015 or so, when the style first appeared actually. So if you want a more old school New England IPA, this could be a good brewery for you to try actually. Like Trillium had the other day in this beer, it's a slightly less, this Trillium's got a bit more wheat in it, but same kind of vibe out of this sort of beer, I would say. More old school New England IPA. I think that's a good place to conclude this one. So yeah, this one was the Mad Eye, a 10.1% New England Hazy Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Double Vision Brewing in Miramar in eastern Wellington on the North Island in New Zealand. A really nice brewery, one that I do hope I can go and visit at some stage. I need to get myself down to Wellington for a wee visit. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Double Vision Brewing as well, and we will see about returning to these guys at some point in the very near future. But until the next time, Slanja, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very, very soon. Ciao just now.